Hello friends, welcome to Help Me Coder, the channel which talks about technology and helps the coder community out there. And in today's video, which is part 13 of our Power Automate series, we are going to look into yet another important topic, which is filter query and filter array. So if you have been using or extracting data from various data sources, whether it be your SharePoint list, whether it be your Excel file, or even Dataverse, and if you are not using filter query or filter array to extract only the subset of data that you really require, then you are really not getting the best performance out of your Power Automate flow. So definitely you need to know when to use filter query and when to use filter array when you are doing your flow, because we have been using apply to each till now, which you know right now how to use apply to each, very easy. But when you want to filter certain data item, you don't want to get all the data first. Imagine you have 5,000 employees data, correct? Now you don't want to get 5,000 employees of data in your trip back to your SharePoint list or your Excel file. If I am only needing data for a particular employee where he's from a department called finance, then I don't need to hit the whole list, get the whole data, then run apply to each again, each of these items, then filter out the finance. That is a wrong way to do it. So first thing first, if you are in such situations where you want only subset of data, then you definitely need filter query. You need to do the filtering at the very first trip when you hit your SharePoint list or your Excel file. You need to make sure you tell the filter query that, bro, I just need people from the department which is finance. I don't want the whole other department list. So that will really help you. And the filter array is even one step ahead. Means filter query is something that you do initially, but filter array happens something when you you have already received the data but you want to still filter it. But there are also advantages in filter array. There are cases when filter query will not work or will be very difficult for you to write filter query, but filter array will definitely work with all the different data sources where you are getting an array. So on all those data sources, you can easily use filter array. So in this demo, we are going to look into that. Before we go into the demo, you need to see what is the current way of doing things. What we have been doing with apply to each. So we will go and look into that. Let me go take you to the demo first straight away. At our example, we have created a dummy list of 500 employees. So this is a 500 employees list where we have a lot of people from, we have first name, last name, email, their department, their job title, what is their employee ID, and what were their joining date. So it has all these details over here. Now if our question was to extract people of finance department, and if we didn't knew how to use filter query, how we would be doing it, what we would have done is we would have clicked on get items. So we will say, okay, get me all the items. So it would have got me 500 rows with this query. And then we would have done is went through each item, and then we could have done it is that we would have said, okay, I would have used this condition, and in this condition I would say, okay, when field 3 value is equal to finance, the field 3 value is nothing but the name of this field called department. So if it will say that if the department is equal to finance, then basically I would have printed the name of the person, of that finance person, and then I would have printed the total count of finance people, who now number of people in finance, because I'm using this incremental variable to basically increment every time a person is printed over here. So at the end I am just printing the total number of finance people over here. So this would be my normal way of operation. But if you see, this is not only a cumbersome process to write this whole thing, because you have to do a lot of actions over here, but also this process will cost you more time. Actually this flow will take more time to run. So it is also not a good flow to write in this form, because it will take a lot of time. So imagine over here, this flow ran approximately, it took me 1 minute and 18 seconds to run this flow. And if you see, I received this data over here. So in this data, if you can see, I show you the count was the total number of people who were from finance were 58. So these are the number of people from finance that I received. So it ran across all the 500 rows. That's why it took so much of time. So now if if for example we knew how to get the data using filter query, what we would have done. So let's quickly do that demo actually. So I go to a my flow, I call it as a instant cloud flow. I will do a manual trigger a flow. I will name the flow as filter query, and now I have created this flow called filter query. Now I will go to SharePoint, get items. So now I have to connect to SharePoint site where we have this list called employee 500 row, but this time we are not just leaving from here, and then we have to select filter query over here. So this is the next step, that this is the extra step that we are doing from the last time, and here we have to filter, provide the field name and what is the operation that we want to do, and then the value you want to compare. For example, in our case we want to check for this field called department, correct? So if you want to know the field name, you can go to list settings here, and in this list setting you will see this is the department column, and this department has, this is the field 3, which is the field name over here. So now we know the field name. Just type it as field 3, and I will say equals, and then I would say finance. So this will give me only the list of items from finance, and here I will then, if I want to show you the count of people that I receive, I can just put a compose finance count of user is, then I will put, you can use length operator over here, and I will put length, and then you can put the dynamic content from the last time, which is the body values. So this way you can get the length of items in it. So let me run this flow and you will see the difference. So last time it ran flow in 1 minute and 13 somethings, and this flow would be super fast, I believe, I tell you. So see, so fast it was. So basically you went in to get only those rows which you really require. So you didn't come back heavy loaded with lot of different items. You only wanted 58 and you got back 58 over here in the output actually in this. And then if you see, the output is finance user count is 58. So, and if I show you how much time it took for me to run this query, it took me only 514 millisecond. Imagine, it was 1 minute something last time for that whole big query that I wrote, but this one is super fast. It's like 514 milliseconds, even not even a second actually. Now if I want to expand on it, so imagine this filter query, correct? So here we are only checking equals finance, but you can use lot of operators as well. So I can use and over here if I want to combine multiple things together. So imagine I want to say, maybe I would say joining date. So I would say joining date, and I know the name of this field is field 10, means don't go by the name. I showed you earlier how do you know the name of this field, by going to the list settings and then checking the field out. So this for me it is field 10, the name of the field. So I would say over here FIELD, and this one 10, and I would say less than, means anything less than the date. So the date for me is 2020-0. So anything less than this would be my output. So this is how I am going to run this. So for the date you have to write in this format. How do I come to know that I have to write in this format, even though here you can see the date, it is in format of 10/5/2019. That one I think you can debug and you can find out, but I will show you later. If you want to know this, you just let me know in the comment section. How do I know that this has to be written in this format? I will let you know. So let me save this and then test it for you. So I'm just showing you the combinations of things that I can do with this filter query, and if you see now, so fast it is running. So now if I see the compose, it has now filtered it out further. So now only 13 people are there where they are from finance department and they have joined before 2020. So that is how easy it is to write your filter queries. Let me quickly discuss about filter query, the advantages of that and what are the benefits. Better performance. So as you see, we just had a example where we did a check on 500 rows. So instead of getting 500 rows, we were exactly getting the amount of data that we wanted. We didn't hit the whole SharePoint list, and we saw a considerable difference. We saw a difference like from 1 minute 13 seconds to basically less than a second. That was a huge difference that we saw when we use filter query. So definitely it has a better performance. Reduce API load and response size. Surely when you request a less set of data, the API load that you have when you return when the answer is returned back to you will be significantly less. So the third point is help with action limits. So less number of actions are required. Why? Because if imagine you are working on a lesser subset of data. So earlier when we were hitting 500 rows and we were not using filter query in our example, then we were going through apply to each on all 500 rows. Plus after that we were also checking on whether a department called finance is available inside that apply to each. So that was an extra action that we were doing for each item. So this was totally removed when we started using filter query, because we don't need to check for that data, because we know when we get the data from filter query, it is the only data that we really require. So definitely fewer loop iterations will be required, fewer condition checks will be required. Best for large SharePoint list. So if you have a large SharePoint list where you have large set of data, don't go and get all the data for the sake of convenience that you don't have to write a filter query. Don't do it. The performance of your the flow will be really very bad. So don't use that, don't do that. And definitely there is a cleaner flow design. You could see that the first example that I showed you has so many actions that I have written. It was such a big flow just doing the simple thing of getting or fetching of data, while the second flow that I did with the filter query only had 3 actions. Okay, so I think so I have explained much on filter query. Now next thing is that we are going to look into filter array. So the difference between filter query and filter array needs to be understood. People might go and hit a SharePoint site, get 5,000 rows, and then they say, okay, I don't want to use apply to each, I will use filter array. No, that is wrong way of doing, because in your first hit itself, when you know at the first instance itself that you need 5,000, you don't need 5,000 rows, you only need people from a certain department, you shouldn't be hitting it in the 5,000 rows in the first step itself. You might be saying, okay, I hit 5,000 rows, then I'm not using apply to each, I use filter array to filter out only that department. But itself you are doing it wrong, because the API payload that you are receiving is huge in the first place. So filter array comes helpful, for example, in cases when you have a subset of data, and in that subset of data which you really require that subset of data, and in that subset of data you want to further segregate into different sections, then filter array can give a value add to your filter query. So filter query should be your first first thing to use. If filter query is used, then later if you want to do further filtering, then filter array is the next step. But the underlying pinning point is that filter array works inside Power Automate after data is already fetched. So that is the key point. Filter array works inside Power Automate after data is fetched. So, and then filter query, it is before sending them to Power Automate. So before you get the data, that is the where you need to use filter query. So let's quickly go into the demo to show you how filter array works. So I'm using the same solution, and here I will be showing you how do you use filter array. I will be first of all getting items from the same list where department is IT, department is finance, department is sales. So I will be getting items based on all these 3 departments. The first filter query should only extract the data that you need. So here I need data from 3 places. One is finance, then I will say and condition where it is IT, and where it is sales. So I will be getting item from these three. So once I get items from these three departments, I want to check the total count of users. Then the next action that I will be doing is I will be doing filter array. Now what I will be doing here is, in this filter array, I want to extract only items from IT department, only items from finance department, and similarly for sales. So I will be creating three filter queries, three filter array parallelly to have this task done. So let me see. So first thing here, I need to specify the array to filter. So the filter array always takes array as an input. So now I will choose my array, which in this case will be the total set of items that I received, which is this body value. Then as part of my filter query, I want to choose a column. In my case, it will be department. So I will choose department value is equal to, for example, finance first. So filter array finance. This is first filter array. Then I will add a parallel bar branch and I will have another filter. In this filter array, which I want to get IT data, again the array to filter from will be this get items. Then the department that I want to choose will be the department value is equal to IT. That is another filter array. Then another parallel branch which is for sales. I will say filter, and this filter array which is about sales, I will say body value is my input to this filter array, and the item that I want is the column department value, and this one content if it is sales. So now I have three filter arrays. They are working on the data that I received from the get items, which is a combination of these three filters. Now let me see what is the count of values that I receive from this. So I will copy this action. So if you don't want to create a particular action again and again, you can copy this action, then right click on this plus icon, click on this paste action, and you can click on paste in action. So see, the same action got copied over here. Then instead of total count of user, I will say finance count of user. Total count I can again change to finance count, and then this is going to get changed. The length will not be this one. The input to this length will be your filter array of finance, which is this one. I will update this. So now this one is changed. Now another, again I will copy this one, copy action, I will paste an action. Here it is not finance count, it will be IT count, and I will remove this double one. Then again IT count, and I will change this length. Again, this is not right. It is supposed to be the filter array result. So I will get the length of items that I received in filter array. Instead of creating this again, I will just copy this action again. I will paste this action, and I will call it as an sales count. Now this one is sales count. Again, I have to change the value inside, which should be from this dynamic content from the filter array of sales. I will update this. I will save this draft and I test this flow. So when we ran for the first time, the total set of items we received as 0 over here, which is weird because this get item should give us a lot of data. Actually, it should not be 0, or this is OR condition. So that one you have to take care. My bad. It is, if it is AND condition, means everything has to be true, then it will be true. So it should be a OR condition. So if it is finance, IT, or sales, then it will work. So that's my bad, sorry. So you have to have this condition. Let us publish now. Let us test this automatic, and then so flow ran successfully. Let me see the total count. Okay, so now this time the total count of users we receive based on finance, IT, and sales is 100. Now I did a filter array on this particular item, and what we received, the count of finance item is 35, IT item count is 34, and then the sales item count is 31. So that is one reason of using filter array over here. Now the other thing I want to show, one more thing. Now this was a simple use of filter array. But if you notice over here, when we are doing this filter array, we can't add another condition over here. To add in another condition, you need to go into the advanced mode. Okay, so let me hit the advanced mode. So here you have to create your whole filter query. So don't get afraid by seeing this whole filter query statement. So for example, I need to know people from finance who have joined, say, before 2020, 1st January 2020. So I have to have those two conditions combined. I can't do with the basic mode. I have to use the advanced mode. So first of all, whatever you query you write in the basic mode, you just copy from here. You just select everything, copy it from here and paste it over here in your notepad or anywhere. Then remove this add symbol and this curly brace symbol. Remove these curly brace symbol and then let us arrange this thing nicely. So this is the equal to sign. I bring this thing below, and this after comma I bring this finance thing also below, and I bring this below. So now this is one equal condition, correct? Now let us see what is the other condition. So again, go back into edit mode, basic mode, and then choose your other condition. So my other condition that I want to put is that date, maybe where is the joining date? Joining date should be less than, which is I mentioned 2020-01 hyphen 01. Okay, go back again in advanced mode. It will give you the query that you need to write. Copy this, go back to your notepad and again paste it over here. Again you have to remove this add symbol and this curly brace closing and starting and closing, then arrange it nicely again the same way I did earlier. Separate it out based on comma and bring this braces below. Then now, because these two conditions have to be met, this has to be an AND condition. So what I would say is, we will bring this equals down, and instead of this equals to be part of this add symbol, I will say AND. This has to be inside an AND statement. Then I will start this bracket, then I will put everything over here under this thing. Under this it will be there. Then I will put a comma again. I will remove this add symbol, I will move it up, and then I will again close this thing. That's it. So this is your whole filter array. Copy this and go back into this filter query, and I think you just paste it over here. See, it got updated. So the whole thing got updated over here with the same condition that you met. So this is your new filter advanced query that you want to put. I will show you another query. So imagine if you want people from IT to be selected, want the count of those, but you also want to find people who have skill as an Excel. So I want to go and see under the skill section and see if they have Excel as a skill. So if I show you IT people, correct? So I select department as filter by IT, apply. So if you see, this guy has an Excel skill. So 8 people have Excel skills. You see this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, and this one. So these people have Excel skill who are from department as IT. Okay, cool. So now we go back over here. Field value 3 is equal to IT. I will copy this first part. Control C. I will bring it over here again. Remove this at and curly braces from here. Again from curly braces, arrange it nicely. And this comma is there, bring it down, and then simply fine. So I think so this is the first set of condition. Then next is again go back to the basic mode, remove department, again select the column that you want. For this one I want skill. I need skill should contains what it should contain, Excel. So I will type in Excel over here and I go back in advanced mode again. I copy this, I bring this over here again arrange it nicely, remove this at the rate and this symbol, arrange it nicely. Okay, so these are two things that I want to combine together. So the other thing that I want to do is, as I mentioned, this has to be under an AND condition. So I will put AND, remove this add symbol from here. There can be only one add symbol, and then put a bracket, put a comma over here, and then again remove this add, and then have a closing bracket. So this is the whole query for you. Copy C, Control C, and then I will paste it over here. So this one also got changed. Now hopefully this should work. I have run the advanced query on the filter array. Now I am publishing it. Hopefully should not be any error. Fine, your flow is ready to go. I will test my flow now and I will run it automatically with a recently used trigger. Awesome, it ran successfully. So again, we will get item total user count as 100 because that remains the same because of the first get items. But now in the finance, it is not a simple check on getting finance, but I want to also check people joining before 2020, correct? So now when we did this filtering, my response reduced from 35 or something it was there to 10 people now. Similarly for IT, we did the change over here to not only just IT but people who have skills as an Excel. Now I have, instead of 34, I have 9 people over here. So that is how the filter query work. I showed you how the advanced mode as well, on how easy it is to write the query when in the advanced mode. Just arrange your things nicely in the notepad and then I think it should be easy to do. You can already get the code by writing one single code in a simple mode, copy it, paste it, again do a simple mode. Simply you just assemble everything together and put it into the advanced mode. So that is how easy it is to write the filter query. So finally, we have come to the end of this video and I hope you would have loved the content of today's video on filter query and filter array and you would have learned something new. These are awesome features. I would definitely believe you will be using them more often in your flows and definitely make your flow run faster. So if you have liked the content and if you want awesome content like these to keep coming, please help us to hit the like and the subscribe button on our YouTube channel, Help Me Coder. So keep watching our YouTube channel and until next time, happy coding.